one extra step that you take could potentially change the trajectory of your business.
Where you don't even have to put out ads anymore. People just start coming to you.
I think I'm blessed in the opportunity to do the work that I do. I get to be around a lot of different agencies, a lot of different industries, a lot of different people in different positions. So one of the biggest things I think with networking that is when you meet someone, immediately write down or text them where you met them, the context of your conversation. The biggest thing is to take a selfie with them. It gives you context of where you guys are at, because you probably see people in a pizza line. You probably see a pizza shop logo in the back, and you easy to start that conversation and say, hey, we met at the pizza store on Brewer Avenue. Do you remember that?
Today we are with Jason from J.August Media, and we are talking about being the solution, not the problem, and how networking can help you solve those problems.
Okay.
So tell us about networking. Why is it so important in your business to have this Rolodex of people that you know?
Wow. So that's actually a good question. So a lot of times people get mixed up with like networking because they was like, I don't even know how to network. I don't know how to network. And it was a really good definition of it that I was on a shoot and I heard someone say it. It was like, just always being a solution to a problem. And that's really good networking. And that's how you actually build a really strong network, because you're always in communication with somebody. You're always asking people what they do, oh, what do you do for a living? Or what do you do for fun? Or just finding out what people are really good at and keeping that in like a mental Rolodex, or even just keeping it. If you grab a business card, write something on the back of the business card, like what they do, because you never know when you're going to need them again. So I've found, even in my line of business of being like a photographer and videographer, I'm around so many people. I get to meet people from every different like walk of life, as far as in all kind of industries. And especially if they're doing it at a high level of knowing that, okay, they've been a machinist for 25 years and they really know how to work machining metal and stuff like that. If I hear somebody ever say like, man, I'm really looking for somebody to fabricate something for me, like, you know what, I do know someone, because you're in contact with them. So I think like just being like, it's kind of like the connector between people or industries, and that's where your value comes in, because you're that person that they can always rely on, that knows somebody that's doing something at a high level that can help them in the problem that they have. So that, in my opinion, that's like the definition of networking.
Okay. I know when you go to weddings, a lot of, like, let's just use weddings as an example. Mm-hmm. You're always taking photos of, like, let's say the DJ, the wedding planner, mm-hmm. The florist, whoever, and you send it to them.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of photographers who won't send that footage to them.
I know.
How does that hurt them?
Well, I think it hurts them because it's, in a kind of way, it's like, you're already taking a photo. It's only one more step, like, to send the photo to them. Videos, I get. That's something completely different, depending on whatever you're shooting in, whatever format that you're shooting in. They may not be able to handle it. They may just not be. They may only just see their stuff when the full video comes out. But if they have that capacity, it's only like 1 or 2 clips. That's it. If the bride and groom are not in there, why don't just send it? But I found by sending it, by making sure like I get the planner when they're setting stuff up or they're putting something down, it's not only really just encouraging to them to know that, hey, somebody really took the time out to just think about me for a sense here, because I've been thinking about this bride and groom for like the last couple of months. But I also now have something that I can post on social media, or I can post in marketing for my business as well. And I didn't even have to really think about it. I didn't have to say, hey, can you take this? Or, hey, does this look good? No, they just took it out the kindness of their heart, because, again, that networking is going to lead to other things, because you're now top of mind as well, too, because you've taken that photo of them. You've taken that video of them. Who are they going to think about first if they're on another wedding and it's one of the weddings that they're putting the most effort into? Of course, they're going to want a team behind them to grab some photos and videos so they could document them actually doing the work, them being the content. So I think photographers and videographers in that role, it's so crucial, because that's where most of your business is going to come from later on. Another way to do that, too, is like networking with the guests, because if you have downtime, like during a wedding, I know we're just using weddings, but if you have downtime during a wedding, where the bride and groom is probably out, they're probably getting changed or whatever the case may be, and you start taking just family portraits of people, the bride and groom, it's clearly going to send those out to them. And what is that? That is a stamp of approval of saying, oh, wow, this was the Davidsons. Let me send this picture to them. They're going to love that. And next thing you know, you get a call 2 or 3 months down the line, like, hey, you actually took photos of the wedding of me and my wife, and now she's pregnant, and hey, do you do maternity pictures? Like, and if you don't, like, no, but I know somebody who does, So I just think it's like the reciprocity of that, of you doing things for different people, that's going to lead to more things for you. So that's more networking.
And how many weddings or how many jobs, not just weddings, but how many jobs have you gotten just by doing that little extra?
Wow. It just put it this way. It was my marketing budget for the company. It's not huge because it's all based off the referrals, the relationships that I've been building for years. So it's I'm being honest, and this is not a bragging thing. This is just honestly just those deep relationships or connections that were being made. But it's led to so much. It's led to, bigger and better like jobs and opportunities, or just being mentioned, in the room or in the vicinity of something huge that's happening in my field. And then when you get into that room and when you're around all these different people and they're completely different agencies, they're completely different positions, high levels in a company. And then now you're in that room and now you're standing out. It's just, again, I starting from that one level of just not sending that photo, it like catapult, or it could potentially just ruin a lot of things in the future. Just send it, send it. I mean, what are you going to charge them for? So like you can charge them $10 for a photo. You got $10. But why?
Yeah.
And then they're going to remember like, man, I remember asking for a photo. It was $10. I understand it's a business, but just think about the relationship that you're building based on the fact that you're just willing to do that. It's not a full-blown photo shoot, it's just like, just a couple of photos.
A little extra.
Yeah.
Now, someone gave you a piece of advice when you did the Kevin Hart event and the event that he was at. And it was about taking a photo with the person there. Can you explain that again? Remember, it was like taking a photo and sending it to them, the person you meet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I was trying to see where you're going here. So, yeah. So one of the biggest things I think with networking that a lot of people, including myself, have to do more is when you meet someone, immediately write down or text them. If you're exchanging information, text them where you met them, the context of your conversation, and also, just something that you guys had shared in common. It could be a guy, girl, whatever the case may be. But the biggest thing is to take a selfie with them or take a picture of them. So you can automatically save that to the contacts. It helps when you take a selfie because then you can see the both of you guys together or you and this other person together. And you can realize, like, I remember exactly what that was. That was we were in the pizza line. They said they do marketing. They said they were in town for a new client, and this is a good marketing connect that I can have if I'm headed to like Kansas, or they have an agency that could potentially help me later, or I could refer them after I check their work, and I can refer them to someone else that's looking for a marketing agency. So just those things right there. And also by taking that photo, it gives you context of where you guys are at, because you probably see people in a pizza line. You probably see a pizza shop logo in the back, and you easy to start that conversation and say, hey, we met at the pizza store on Brewer Avenue. Do you remember that? Oh, yeah, I do remember you. Hey, how's it going? It's going great. Hey, I got a contact for you if you're interested. And that, again, it just re-established the conversation that you guys had for you even to get to the point of asking for their number and exchanging the information. It doesn't make it weird. If you send an email, it's like, I think I remember him, but I don't know who he is,
Yeah, because that photo, it's like, oh, no, I did meet that guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that guy was at such and such event, you know.
Or even if you meet him and they forgot, you're like, oh, look, it's me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, it is you. We did meet.
Yeah, we're not stalking you, but...
I'm not stalking you. But you did take a photo with me, yeah.
Now, what about, how many times have you been the solution to so many of your clients' problems? Wow. And like, what were I know I'll listen to you on the phone and you're like, oh no, I know such and such, they ask you questions about, let's say they need someone to do a sound system. And you're like, oh, I actually know so-and-so,
Yeah. So I think I'm blessed in the opportunity to do the work that I do. And this is the reason why. Again, I mentioned it earlier that I get to be around a lot of different agencies, a lot of different industries, a lot of different people in different positions. And again, the thing that I'm noticing is work ethic. So if I'm at an event and the sound team, they are not dropping cues, they're on point, their staff is dressed appropriately, there's a producer there, there's people that just doing their job. They're not just slacking off, they're not just on the phone, they're not just looking around. that's a mental note for me, because I'm always thinking like, if I had an event, would I want them at my event, or would I have to fire them? So if I could say, because I know my standards are pretty high for myself. So if I could say, no, they are really doing a bang up job, and you can hear everybody saying, look, they are on point. That's a connect that you want to get with. But many times that my clients may have something that they're dreaming up, and they could just be talking, between takes, and they're like, hey Jay, I'm really thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. I know you're really good with the photo and video, and you could help me like scripting everything out, and you can help me with that things. But what I'm really looking for is somebody actually plan this, because I know I can't do it. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I understand, like, entrepreneurs, we're in the business to figure it out, but you also have to be just self-aware that this is not your lane. But you have to find somebody's lane that this is, because if you find the person that's in that lane and they're owning that lane, and you bring them into the equation, it not only makes your job easier being as the entrepreneur, but also is going to make that client like, oh my God, I can't believe you found this person for me. It's just going to make them want to do business with you even more, and also ask you more questions like, hey, do you know anybody who does flyers? Like, actually, yeah, I do, because you're just around that. You're in that environment to take in all those things, because believe it or not, if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, you're doing it yourself too. You're searching, you're going through reviews, you're trying to figure out who's best in the field before you hire them, because again, they're doing the same thing to me, try to figure out like, is he really good? Can he do it? So I think being a solution to like your current clients' problems it's like imperative, because not only will they continue to do business with you, they will continue to refer you as well, because they know they can trust you. They know you've bought somebody else in that they can trust. So you're just building onto that relationship. So the next person that comes in like, hey, do you know, like, oh my God, Jay knows. And to believe it or not, he has a really good network as well too. So they always say this one thing too. They say your network is your net worth. So if you associate yourself with people who are doing things at a high level, that just catapults your business. And you could be just a person of one, you could have maybe 2 or 3 employees, but just by you by you extending out and knowing different people who are doing it at a high level, it just extends your business as well too. So
awesome. But honesty is good too, because if you haven't worked with that person, I think it's really important that you're honest with your client and say, hey, I know someone, I haven't worked with them, but I do know someone who can do X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
Just don't go online and pull someone out the blue and be like, oh, they're looking for this person. Let me just find someone, because that can bite you.
Yeah,
too.
It can definitely bite you. And I've had situations, and this is so crazy. I'm so glad you brought this up. I've had situations that I was bought into, where, let's say, a photographer found me and they brought me in as video, and their impressions on the photographer was But when I came in, they were like, okay, how did we know you? How do you even know this person? And again, this is nobody I associate myself with now, but the person was just always not telling the truth, or saying they were going to do one thing and they never did it. But when I came in, it was like, oh my God, you actually delivered. Hey, do you also do photography? Like, yeah, we actually do. So, and then, it would take that person. I mean, I hate to be that way. But that has happened so many times. So if you don't vet the person that you're referring over, that referral could be the last time you do business with that client. It could be the very last time, because they say, I can't believe he set me up this way, if you don't vet the person. So that's one thing to really consider. It's not all about just going online and just finding somebody. They say they do it. Here, take this person. Like, no, be honest. Like, you know what? I'm going to ask around, but I don't believe I know anybody in that, or just ask around the people that you trust, that know that think just like you. And if you send somebody and they'll tell them to leave, like, hey, you got to go, so I think that's important.
Well, also, I guess I want to touch on this too. Then how do you make sure that when you are sending someone that they're not going to take your client? Because that's kind of like
that is one of the things. And you have to really, to be honest, you have to know the intentions of the person that you're sending. And you can really see it in just the actions over time, because the last thing I would do is send out someone who I have not worked with, because there are many opportunities that you may work together and you may notice certain things. You may notice a guest come over, like during, let's use weddings, for example. if you're shooting with a new photographer that you've never shot with them before, and a guest walks up and is like, oh my God, I really love the way you're taking these photos and stuff. Like, hey, we have an event going on. Can I get your information? And they pull out their phone and give their information, even though they're there working with you. Then you know that's a red flag, because it's not all about like, hey, the proper way to handle that is like, hey, this is his company. Definitely refer over to him, or I'll give you his information, because this is not my gig. But I do understand a lot of people do that, but I don't think that's right. Especially if you're bringing this person in, they're subcontracting for you, and you then attempting to take the client. Let's just go legal for a sec, or like government wise. In certain agencies, like government agencies, that's not even allowed. That's banned. So meaning like if I am a subcontractor to you, or if I'm under you, I can't sell to the big client. They're not even going to listen to me. And if they find out, they're going to kick you out. So the same applies for like if you're freelancing, if you're brought in, you're not supposed to just say, hey, take my information, give me a call. That doesn't work that way. So that's one red flag that you could see automatically. Another one is if you notice in that there's a constant comparison, even though you're trying to help the person. But that particular individual is always like, well, how do you get this job? Man, I can't get these jobs like that. How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that? Even though they may be out of curiosity, but there's some animosity and jealousy there. You're not going to send that person onto one of your best clients, because you clearly know they're going to like, so how much is he charging? Or they're going to try to undercut you. But I would say this, and this is one of the clients that I deal with right now that I respect them so much for it. It was one time where I walked in, and another videographer walked in as well. They were just in the building doing some things. And they walked in right after me. I remember this was like my second time going out. And he was asking me all these questions. And after a while, I'm setting up and I said, hey, we do the same line of work. I'm setting up. Like, let me get to it because my client's important and his time is important. And he was like, oh, no, I really respect you. Really kind of arrogant. But then he saw I looked younger than him. So he then went over to the client. He said, hey, man, we do this, too. And I'm actually local. And, what does he charge it? And my client looked at him. He said, well, I've been working with him. And the fact that you're asking me what he's charging while he's here is one reason I will never do business with you. Thank you. Because he realized the intentions of that person. He realized the characteristics of that person. He realized he's going to do anything to get a client. So at that point, he's like, why would I even want to work with you? Your intentions are not for me. Yeah. Your intention is going to be to whoever's paying you the most. That's where you're trying to go to. Like, are you in it for me to help me, or are you in it for yourself? So I think that's most important. Most clients will not even take that. If they see that you and I show up, they understand that I hired you. They're not going to try to undercut and go to you, because it's just not the way it works, So that's one way to know that you could send that person out, and also the client that you trust. Now, if you have a client that's just looking to get to the bottom line, you could send anybody out there. They're probably going to ask, so what would you charge to do this? And that's just where they're at. That's their intention. But is that the client that you want to build a long lasting relationship with? Because they may use you this time, but they're not going to use you the next time, because they say, I paid $2,000 this time. I only got $1,500, and I'm not trying to pay $2,000 because I want to do something else. I'm not going to call them. I'll call somebody else, and I'll call them when I have that again. And that's up to you, but I'm looking for loyalty.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so I guess I just wanted to clear that up, because I didn't want people to think that you would ever go in and take someone's client. But no. I know it's happened that you just were more professional, and maybe you were doing photo and they were doing video, and they hired you again for photo.
Correct. Yeah. And the one thing I also do too, especially if it's someone that I worked with from before, I'll tell them. I said, hey, just kind of letting you know, the client, they did ask me for a quote. I'm not going to give it to them, but just kind of letting you know where that stands. Or I'll tell the client, I'll say, hey, you know what? This is hers, or this is his. Out of respect, I wouldn't send that. I could send you it for a service that they don't offer, but I wouldn't send it for that. And now if I get the green from the person to say, hey, I can't handle it, you please go ahead and send a quote, then it's all game from there. But it's just the etiquette, when it comes to it. There are people who are sharks, and that's what happens, but I don't operate like that.
And I also will say that another thing, when you go out and you're shooting under someone, you never wear your name.
No, gosh, no. I never show up with my logos, never show up anything. Everything is just standard black. Because again, you never want your client to even second guess, especially if you're just starting off. Because I've been on jobs with, photographers and videographers who's just starting off, and they brought me in. They say, hey, I really need your help, and I'm there to guide them, kind of like mentor them while I'm shooting with them. And the last thing you want to do is outshine them. If you're just, your work ethic is your work ethic, there's nothing you really do about that. But if they outshine them and then they're looking at your logo and they start looking it up, like, man, this guy does this, this, and this. And like, why do we have this guy? That's the type of client that, unfortunately, is like you don't really want to associate yourself with. But on the flip side is like you don't want to give them any reason to have to look. So that's why, just as a standard across the board, you go in all black. You don't have logos on. You don't have anything on to just make the client second guess, like, who did I actually hire?
Because that's confusing.
Big thing. It's very confusing. Last thing you want to do is have a confused client. And then like, who's giving me what?
Exactly.
You didn't explain. Did you explain this to me? So yeah.
Now, have you ever run into the issue where maybe a client didn't hire you, hired someone else that you knew?
Yeah.
And then they brought you on.
Yeah. And I just woke up and was like, this is a funny world. And I make a joke out of it. I say, hey, everyone's not for everyone. But then at the end of the night, they said, you know what? That was really weird, but I really appreciate you for being professional. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going home. Yeah. I can't do this. No, but it has happened. And they were like, wait a minute. Then I told her, I was like, yeah, you did. But I was like, my prices probably were different. But hey, guess what? You get to work with me anyway.
You get the best of both.
You get the best of both. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate you sharing your ideas and thoughts about networking, because that is hard. And it's hard for someone who has a business, who's maybe been in it for a long time, who's just starting out. It's really hard to figure out, how do I network? And I think the biggest thing is when you're going out, just go a little bit above and beyond, get those people, get shots for, planners, get shots for DJs, get shots for whoever you're around, and just send it to them, because you never know on the other end what that's going to do for your business.
You never know. And it's like it's the wildest thing what a photo or video can do. Like one photo. Hey, you took a photo of me 5 years ago. 5 years? Where were we? We were at the Hilton. You were doing this event. One photo. And that one photo stuck with me. That was one of the best photos I ever had. Hey, I'm having this really big event, or my company is having this really big event. Do you have other people that shoot with you? Yeah. And then that one photo, like, it's 3 times the amount of revenue that you made for when you were doing that one gig to where you're at now. That just one photo.
That one, and don't be scared to even do it at your kid's school. Do you know how many jobs you've gotten just from doing free events at the kid's school and not wanting anything in return, but you stuck out to someone who was like, they were a head of some corporation. And they're like, hey, you did photos at our kid's school. Do you mind, doing it for us?
So it's networking is such a powerful thing, especially if you're in like a media field. It's so powerful. It really is. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Anything else you want to tell us about networking?
No. I think just the biggest thing is that just realize that one extra step that you take could potentially change the trajectory of your business. It literally can change the trajectory of your business.
Where you don't even have to put out ads anymore. People just start coming to you. So think about it. Think about how you can network this week and drop in the comments, like, how have you networked with someone and how has it helped your business? Because the comments actually help other people. So like, subscribe, share, and share this with someone who's thinking about, has a business, they don't really know how to network, or they do network and they just need to know a little bit more ideas of how they can network with someone.